Happy Halloween, everybody. We did not come in costume, but Grover Dog did. He is Marty McFly.
Yeah.
Quite
He's
honest.
got his life preserver on from Back to the Future.
This is one of two Halloween costumes that Grover has. The rest of us did not come in Halloween costumes.
You might hear this guy in the background on a regular basis barking at delivery people or whatever. So, yes, this is our little Halloween hot dog today. Welcome into Redacted on this happy Halloween on this Thursday. Craziness going on in the world. And we've got a lot of widespread voter issues and voter-related fraud issues and voter machine problems across the United States, which we are going to document and talk about on today's show.
Now, it's worth noting, this is not new. Okay, it's only Democrats that make you think that this has never happened and it's brand new and it's not happening. So let's not get crazy about the fact that we've always had secure elections. Let's just look at this rationally, folks, because we need this to work for everybody.
Also, Congressman Ron Paul is going to be joining us here on the show today to talk about the decline of the U.S. dollar. Now, J.D. Vance the other day made some comments about ending the Federal Reserve. He was asked about, should we end the Federal Reserve? And he said, look, I've not been a Ron Paul guy, but I've recently come around to Ron Paul's way of thinking. So will a Trump administration potentially get rid of the Fed? We're going to ask Congressman Paul on the show today.
Plus, this Democratic line of party of joy doesn't really work when they are the most miserable party. In fact, data shows that teenagers who identify as liberal have the highest rates of depression and the highest increases in depression. Why do you think that is? There's actually a pretty rational explanation about it. We're going to talk about it because we don't want anyone to be miserable. We want to collectively be strong enough to take what happens to our country, whether what you want to happen happens or not. So we're here for it. We got to be able to take it, guys. We signed up for this life. We got to do it.
Monique in London says, "Hey, forget the news. Let's just hang out with the cute dog today." Yeah, thanks, Monique. I know. Well, he's our companion during the show. He's my companion throughout the writing of the show every morning, sitting on my lap. So yes, he is.
Did you think I was
going
to take that bad when you said he's my show companion, and I'm like, I'm right here?
Yeah.
That's why you changed it.
I caught it. He's my companion, not my show companion.
Okay.
David got dressed up for Halloween today, I believe, too. Or maybe not. Yeah, there he is.
David, show us your costume.
Oh, no, he wasn't.
That's misinformation. That's fake news. What are you guys talking about? That is fake news.
He dressed up in Graybeard. He dressed up as Garth from Wayne's World. All right, we got a lot of news to get to, so let's dive into it. Let us know where you're joining us from around the world today. Let's get into your news roundup from the news you might have missed overnight. Well, if you want to access Colorado's voting computers, you could have done that for about many months, actually, if you wanted to. If you had physical access to the machines and the passwords, which were available wide open for you on the Secretary of State's websites. That's because the passwords for voting, the voting machines all over Colorado were available right on the Secretary of State's website for months. You can't make this up. I mean, how in the hell did this happen? How did they get there? Well, in fact, they were put there by the Democrat Secretary of State, Jenna Griswold's own office. Yes, they put them there. Now they've admitted as much only after being caught in the act. Watch.
They found out about the breach 5 days ago, but only started changing the leaked passwords after that security issue was made public. Tonight, 9 News investigates why Griswold dragged her feet on securing the voting machines and telling county clerks about the breach. Here's Marshall Zellinger.
Voting machines used by county clerks are listed on the Colorado Secretary of State's website by serial number, by county, by model, and vendor. And apparently, up until last week, there was a hidden tab next to inventory that, when unhidden, showed one of 2 passwords needed to make changes to each computer. And Democratic Secretary of State Jenna Griswold knew about this on Thursday and did not start having any of the passwords changed until it became public on Tuesday. She also did not notify county clerks until it became public.
She should be fired. This is absolute election negligence. You knew about it. You didn't alert other individuals to fix it. And you only copped to it after the media found out about it and called you on it. That's what happened here.
And also, don't forget, that's the same lady that spearheaded trying to get Trump off the ballot in Colorado.
If Jenna Griswold looks familiar to you, you'll recall that this is the very same person that tried to remove Trump from the Colorado ballot because she labeled him an insurrectionist.
A larger reaction is disappointment. I do believe that states should be able, under our Constitution, to bar oath-breaking insurrectionists. And ultimately, this decision leaves open the door for Congress to act, to pass authorizing legislation. But we know that Congress is a nearly non-functioning body. So ultimately, it will be up to the American voters to save our democracy in November.
This was a unanimous decision, and
it was not a unanimous decision. In fact, the dissenting judges are currently on the ballot. So if you're a Colorado voter, the justices Boatwright and Birkencotter were two of the three that dissented on that opinion from the Colorado Supreme Court. So if you agree with them, you should vote them back into office. So I don't know why she said that.
Yeah, that's weird. So who is investigating this election disaster? Don't worry. The very same people that leaked the passwords are now investigating it. Jenna Griswold's own office is investigating herself. How's that going to go?
Who will investigate the password leak from your office?
Well, we're disclosing what happened. If we are in a situation where we have good information to know that there is a security threat, we will notify and I will take action. But that's just not where we're at.
So just want to make sure I've got a clear answer to that question. It sounds like what you're saying is the only people investigating the actions of your office are your office, unless I'm mistaken. Is there an outside agency that's investigating what happened in your office?
Well, what happened in my office is very straightforward.
It's very straightforward.
We fucked up.
That's
what happened.
We put out these passwords, and so we're gonna look into ourselves.
Yeah,
we're gonna navel gaze into ourselves and investigate ourselves. It's very straightforward.
I wouldn't be surprised if they don't do what. I think the kid was. I think it was in the Netherlands where a kid found a government website and accidentally ended up in the back end where he had everybody's personal information. He reported it to them, and they arrested him for hacking. So I'm surprised
Actually,
go.
Arrest herself.
Yeah. Actually, that's what Edward Snowden did. When he was a teenager, he found some unhidden information on the government website. He called the government himself, and then he was home, and the government called him back 6 weeks later. His mom answered the phone, and they were like, someone from the Justice Department's asking for you? He was 14 years old. He just really cared so much about government security. This is a foreshadowing of what he would become, is that he found that kind of thing himself.
So the laundry list of voting irregularities is astonishing right now across the country. I mean, we could literally do a show for 4 hours today going through all of the reports across the United States. This is not a conspiracy theory, but here's one of the latest ones that just came in about 2 hours ago. I'll share this one with you out of Kentucky. So here's another one in Kentucky. Voters there reporting they cannot click on Trump's name. Watch. This is happening from multiple reports, not just one person with a camera. I am trying to vote for Donald Trump. Keep trying to vote for Donald Trump. Oh, you know what? You don't want to vote for Donald Trump, and it switches it to Kamala Harris. Can we play that again? It's unbelievable. I'm pressing Donald Trump. I'm pressing Donald Trump's name, and no. It won't let me press Donald Trump. It just flips it right over to Kamala Harris. I mean, you can see 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'll try with my thumb now. How about with my other finger? Oh, that one will work? Oh, sure. But you want Kamala.
Oh, my gosh. All right. Well, that's happening. We told you yesterday where you can report these kind of things. The Justice Department says that they have 94 field offices available and waiting for these kind of things to investigate. Will they do it? I don't know. I share your pessimism, but it's there, right?
Yeah. And I was going to say, I'm going to talk in a few minutes here about the illegal immigrants voting piece on this. We'll get to that story in just a moment.
Well, first, we want to tell you that the New York Times published its hit piece on conservative YouTube channels. What they were after was quite apparent when the reporter texted Tucker Carlson over the weekend, and Carlson published the texts on X. They wanted to discourage YouTube from platforming these people, quite simply. Here are the text. The reporter says quite clearly that we're looking into how political commentators have discussed the upcoming election on YouTube. We're using an analysis of Media Matters, which is a left-wing research group. Could you kindly provide us with a comment? What they want to know is, how you've identified these videos and whether or not you make money from them and that kind of thing. And Tucker, essentially, we showed you, told him to F off. Yeah. So the piece came out today. They used Media Matters, which they acknowledged, but then they also say we independently verified the research when we watched the videos ourselves, and we determined whether YouTube places ads or fact check labels on them. Now, here is what they conclude is that now again, we don't know the parameters of what we're calling misinformation or misleading information about the election. We don't know. They decide, right? And since they have lacked curiosity about all manner of things when it comes to voting integrity, we have to just trust that their methodology is solid. Okay, but here's what they conclude. They say they tracked 30 of the most popular YouTube channels that they identified as persistently spreading election misinformation to analyze the narratives in the run-up to the November election. Of these 30, they found 286 videos that they thought contained election misinformation. Again, when they say misinformation, I don't trust them. You choose whether you want to or not. They said they racked up more than 47 million views, which means that YouTube was generating quite a bit of revenue from those. So you see what they want to do is they want to shame YouTube from not only making money on this content, but platforming them. They don't want the creators to share the money at all. Only the things that they mark as election lies are things that are more questions than answers, like what happened here? What about this, right? The problem is that the New York Times just doesn't want those questions to be asked. Surprisingly, now, color me legitimately surprised, like jaw on the floor, is that YouTube pushed back on this. They said this is part of an open debate. This does not violate our guidelines. And when something does violate our guidelines, we take care of it. Here's the quote saying the ability to openly debate political ideas, even those that are controversial, is an important value, especially in the midst of election season. YouTube says it does remove videos that are misleading about how to vote or encourage election interference or make violent threats. But they say we have significant investment in this area. And we make sure that first and foremost, we're raising authoritative content and then remove or reduce things that represent misinformation. So what they're saying, what YouTube is saying, these videos that you've identified don't meet our guidelines for removal.
That's a big middle finger to Media Matters. Of course, Media Matters would love for YouTube to deplatform conservatives. And sure, YouTube makes money off of our channel, makes money off of conservative channels. Yeah. But what YouTube is saying here is, no, this is free speech. This is free speech. They have a right to comment on the election. Now, if they're going out there telling, it's like shouting fire in a crowded place. If they're telling people don't,
which is legal, that's a misinformation. But okay, what Tim Walz said about shouting fire in a crowded theater, the Supreme Court has ruled is legal.
Well, I know it is free speech, but what I'm saying is it's YouTube's own terms and conditions. They can choose to do whatever they want. What YouTube is saying here in this text is they're saying, if one of these commentators was telling people to not do something on election day or to do something dangerous, that's when they would step in. Yeah. Right. And so what they're saying to Media Matters is a big middle finger. Hey, and you're trying to criticize. So Media Matters is trying to criticize YouTube for making revenue from conservatives. Oh, but we only want liberals to be making money for you.
Well, we saw how often YouTube deplatformed people for just asking questions about the COVID vaccine. We got a strike for reading Pfizer's own clinical trials. So I think that they're trying to not make that mistake again. Now, it feels again like this is a coordinated bit of propaganda, and the New York Times is just following along into this, but it shouldn't be surprising. Remember on Monday, we spoke to former Justice Department lawyer whose job was to litigate voter fraud under both Bush and Obama, J. Christian Adams. He talked about how, of course, there is election fraud, but we don't know about it because he said there's a major industry heavily funded by wealthy people like George Soros that denies election fraud. It is massive and well funded. Listen to what he said. Who are the people beyond George Soros funding this fraud denial industry? And obvious question, why would they do that?
Well, since I wrote the book 13 years ago, there's a whole crop of new donors. Arabella, these venture funds, like Arabella and others have cropped up to give huge amounts of money to left-wing organizations like the Brennan Center. They're reflexive. They're like circus trick animals. Like, is there any voter fraud? No, says squawks the bird. And so it's these folks who are reactionary. They never say there's voter fraud because they're not allowed to. It's contrary to their gospel. The truth is somewhere else. The truth is there is. How much? I don't know, because we can't ever research it, can we? We're shut down by groups like Project Vote and the Democracy, this or that organization. So it's real. I know the victims. I've been in their homes. It's a shame that they can't do something about it. They're reflexively defending it.
So the New York Times is playing right into this election fraud denial, when of course there's been election fraud for decades, years, centuries. That's just the human propensity to cheat is too great. The question is, do we prosecute it? Do we fix it? Do we have an appetite for it? And that is partisan. So obviously this New York Times piece is a shame piece to make sure that these conservatives who want to ask these questions are discouraged from doing that. The good thing is the media is circling the drain and most people just don't trust them in this election cycle, and most people can see through it, I hope.
Well, most people see through the ridiculousness of media matters. And I love that the New York Times actually said they're a left wing,
right?
So yeah, good. I mean, all right, because they kind of picked on media matters in this, but they still got their research from them.
I wouldn't say they picked on them.
He did
they
label
admitted their bias.
They admitted their bias.
Yes.
Right. But they also admit at the same time that's where we're getting our information, the 286 videos.
Right. We didn't identify them ourselves.
At the New York Times. We just relied on the media matters for their bias and then went and tried to shame the YouTube into censoring conservatives.
Yeah.
Like that's how this works.
Well,
anyway.
I kind of want to point out too, like it's saying that about YouTube. Yeah, it's a positive thing, but they still will demonetize a lot of that. But as we've noticed in like the past year, YouTube has taken down a lot less. I mean, we still get copyright claims every once in a while, but we're not getting like we used to. Like they're not actually taking things down. They might be demonetizing it or limiting ads. So I think they are in a way getting better with that stuff.
All right, you knock on wood.
Knock on wood.
Knock on wood.
Yeah.
Philip, are you knocking on? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, they do.
I just know that YouTube's going to back off. They need all the revenue they can because they were sued for $20 decillion with a D.
Right.
By Russia.
Right. By Russia, yeah. Yeah, I mean, look, they do demonetize our videos like once a week, so they pick and choose, and then we have to fight it, and we have to submit an appeal, and they'll go through the whole rigmarole and everything. And God, it's just sad because they are the largest freaking platform.
Yeah.
Like we're on Rumble right now, but a lot of our YouTube users today are saying, hey, we had to come back to YouTube today because Rumble is having all sorts of buffering issues today. So I've seen that from a number of different people. So again, Rumble's having some issues today. That's why even our view numbers are pretty low today on Rumble, comparatively speaking. I mean, it's still, we're streaming live right now. We're still more than Newsmax and mainstream media organizations on Rumble, but that's good. But still way lower than normal because of this buffering issue. So I know there's a lot of, they had to jump back over to YouTube. So again, it's the biggest beast in the room and we still have to deal with them. All right. Widespread reports of illegal immigrants voting on U.S. elections. And now the Supreme Court has stepped in. First, news overnight out of Michigan. Michigan officials have charged a Chinese national for illegally voting in the election at an early voting site in Ann Arbor, Michigan. And the only reason he was busted is because he asked the clerk to get his ballot back after he submitted it.
After he got home, he had an attack of conscience and said, I shouldn't have done that.
I shouldn't have done that. Maybe I should ask for it back. So, in other words, he voted and it was already registered. They didn't check it. They had no trouble with him voting. The only reason we found out about it is because he had a crisis of conscience. That's it. The Chinese national had registered to vote on Sunday using his student ID and another documentation to establish residency. Then, after he voted, he contacted the city's clerk's office and attempted to retract the illegal vote. However, his ballot was already processed through the tabulator. So it counted. So, so Kamala Harris got a vote in Michigan.
We don't know how he voted.
That's true. To be fair, we don't know how he voted. He may have voted for Trump. So in other words, he would have voted easily and it would have been counted, but he asked for his ballot back. That's when, of course, crap hit the fan. So this is happening way more than they're telling us. He was charged with 1 count of an unauthorized elector attempting to vote and 1 count of perjury for making a false affidavit for the purpose of securing voter registration. Remember just a few months ago, though, in Michigan, the Democratic Secretary of State there, Jocelyn Benson, told us that illegals can't vote in Michigan because that's a conspiracy theory. That's not happening.
So there's been a lot of noise about people who aren't U.S. citizens voting in our elections. But here's the truth. Only U.S. citizens can register to vote or cast a ballot in our elections. Anyone who claims otherwise is intentionally misleading you. In fact, it's illegal for non-citizens to vote, and it is extremely rare for anyone who's not a citizen to even attempt to register to vote or cast a ballot.
Yeah.
That's not true.
It's not true at all.
It's just not true. And again, as J. Christian Adams pointed out, that a lot of times since there's this dragnet of putting illegals into registration through the motor voter system and other welfare offices, a lot of times they don't even know they've done it. And so that's just, she's lying.
Right. A lot of people in our chat, Oklahoma Stoner Chick in our Rumble chat says she's a liar.
She's lying.
Bodie Master says she looks fake. Lie. Yeah, it is a lie. Yesterday we showed you busloads of illegals showing up to vote in Pennsylvania, skipping the line.
No, they had these people, they had about 12 of them walked in. They were all foreigners. And then they took them up. These younger people helped them to fill out, they say, vote PA today. Yep. And then they took them up, and somehow they beat a 2-hour line. And then they walked up, and the one lady, they were even asking her, they're like, we don't have you in the system. Your name's not right. And they're like, oh, well, we'll take it back and change it. Yeah. How do you change your damn name?
Exactly. Yeah. Well, thank you.
Yeah, this is not just happening on purpose. As Citizen AG reported in a now viral video, and thanks to Alex Jones for sharing this, today this all starts with the motor voter DMV. And as Natalie was talking about with J. Christian Adams about motor voter, and of course that's where a lot of these problems start. That's where the Democrats are using to target these illegals to vote. Watch.
I found the source of exactly where all these illegals are getting put on the voter rolls, and it's going to be made public very, very soon. And I'll tell you right now where it is. And it's an organization called the Electronic Registration Information Center. It's led by a guy named David Becker, who was involved in a scandal while he was a U.S. attorney, and he essentially contacted the city of Boston while he worked for the DOJ, and the DOJ sued Boston over voting rights, claiming that he would help them get out of it. He then worked for PFAW, the People for the American Way, a far-left organization. Then he went on to work for Pew. And with George Soros' money, he created an organization called the Electronic Registration Information Center, which is known as ERIC. And then ERIC contracts with the states to get your DMV records, all that sensitive data that nobody else can get, that's protected under the Driver's Privacy Protection Act. That's where they're finding out the ineligible voters. That's where they're finding out who in the state isn't registered to vote. And their membership agreement prohibits you from disclosing to them who is or is not a citizen. So you send all the information to people that live there. Don't tell them if they're citizens or not, and they pump those names onto the voter rolls, and then they circulate it back, and then they give it to the other organization David Becker found, which is the Center for Election Innovation and Research, which is the recipient of all those Zucker bucks from back in 2020.
So great job to Citizen AG for that. Well, the Supreme Court has now ruled, at least in Virginia, that non-citizens cannot vote. CNN just admitted on camera that this will hurt Democrats. I can't believe they actually admitted this. CNN, watch.
Breaking news now. The Supreme Court is allowing Virginia to purge suspected non-citizen voter registrations. This is a big decision from the Supreme Court. Just came in moments ago. I want to go straight to CNN's Paula Reed. Paula, what can you tell us?
Jim, this is incredibly significant because this is one of the court's first significant decisions ahead of next week's election. Here, they are allowing the state of Virginia to continue with a program that will purge suspected non-citizens from its voter registration rolls. Now, this is a bit of a surprise because the trial court and the appellate court sided with the Biden administration that objected to this purge, saying that the state cannot, under federal law, remove large groups of people from the voter rolls within 90 days of an election, though there is nothing stopping them from investigating individual voters and removing them from the voter rolls. Now, former President Trump has seized on this issue in Virginia, as have other Republicans, as a way that they should be able to remove suspected non-citizens, calling it sort of a common sense move. And here, a court divided across partisan lines, siding with Republicans. Now, Governor Youngkin, who is implementing or attempting to implement this program, he has issued a statement saying, quote, "This is a victory for common sense and election fairness."
Don't use that term.
Voter purge?
It's not a voter purge. It is them implementing Section 8 of the Voter Rights Act, which requires you to clean up dirty voter rolls. So when the state gets their list of who is voting, and some of them are flagged as non-citizens, they are required to do something about it. Now, more of them get flagged as dead than non-citizens, but Democrats don't want anybody pulled off of that list, even though it is in the Voter Rights Act. So it's not a purge. It's just their obligation under Section 8 of the Voter Rights Act.
Well, as Democrats love dead people voting.
Yeah.
They've been absolutely using that. So, you don't want to pull anybody off those lists. Democrats don't want anyone off those lists. And that's why they've been fighting it. That's why they've been going like balls to the wall to keep all of these people on these voter rolls.
Yeah.
I mean, how can you even in good conscience, how do you go home at night and talk to your family about this? Like, honey, what did you do today? I fought to keep dead people on the voter rolls in the United States of America. I fought to keep illegal immigrants on the voter rolls in the United States of America. Mm-hmm. That's what they're doing.
Yeah. All right. Well, guess what, guys? Jaywalking is now racist. Jaywalking is totally legal in New York City because lawmakers have removed a law that made it illegal. So they legalized it because they said that too many ethnic minorities were getting jaywalking tickets. Race grifters like to think that anytime there is a racial disparity, it must be because of discrimination. In fact, neo-racist author Ibram X. Kendi says, "When I see racial disparities, I see racism." Full stop. So the NBA, so racist. Right?
Apparently.
That's totally, yeah. Could it possibly be because ethnic minorities receive more jaywalking tickets because they jaywalk more? Is that possible? Is that something maybe you've noticed in a certain culture that people don't use the crosswalks? And I wonder, why would they even maintain crosswalks then? Because your tax dollars are going to go to repainting those crosswalks that nobody has to use. Why do this? Now, this is the kind of policy that hurts minorities more than it helps. We saw this in Chicago. Liberal politicians proposed removing speeding cameras from certain neighborhoods because they noticed that Black and Hispanic drivers were getting more traffic tickets than other drivers. Only the traffic tickets that were issued, the tickets were issued by red light cameras and speeding cameras. How the hell is a traffic camera racist? I ask you. Now, in fact, speeding cameras were lowering the incidence of crashes in the neighborhoods that had them. So they were protecting the minorities in that neighborhood. But neo-racists still wanted to remove those safety barriers in minority neighborhoods because they care more about the racism than the traffic safety. This is asinine. The same story inevitably will follow with jaywalking. Jaywalking is dangerous. We have laws against it to disincentivize it. But now we're saying we can't do that because racism. So if, in fact, ethnic minorities do jaywalk more, they are now at an increased risk of getting hit by cars. So we don't care to protect them from actual accidents. We care to protect them from racism.
Right.
Okay, let me know what you think of that. I mean, New York City will just turn into Cairo, basically, where there's pedestrians don't have the right of way and you better just run.
Oh, in Cairo, yeah. You try to cross the street. I asked one of the guys, I'm like, how do we cross the street? I have my 3 little kids. We're trying to cross the street. And he just laughed at me.
He said helicopter.
He said, take a helicopter. No joke. So that's what you want? That's what you want New York City to look like? You can't even cross the roads because it's racist?
The Pearl District in Portland, I don't go down there, especially in the summer, just because there's so many people just wandering out of into traffic from just the middle of the road and stuff like that. Even though Portland's got crosswalks everywhere, you're legally required to stop for pedestrians, but it's people just jaywalk, and I won't even go down there because you can't make it down the road. It's you have to stop every half a second. It's insane.
Right. We noticed that when we drive around downtown Newark, New Jersey, we're like, why is everyone walking across the? What's happening here?
Like I'm almost hitting people. They don't have any. They don't give a rat's ass at all about crosswalks or jaywalking or anything.
Right. Yeah.
Like, okay.
And so, that's what we want. Like we literally are descending into chaos if we can't have basic order on the streets. What the hell?
Well, I got a question for you guys. What's creepier than pedophile Joe Biden? How about a White House Halloween party hosted by pedophile Joe Biden? How would you bring your kids, by the way, to the White House? Well, one day after calling Trump supporters garbage, Joe Biden hosted kids at the annual White House Halloween party. He entered the party with his wife, Jill, dressed as a giant panda. Of course, you know all about pandas, right? You know all the subtext about pandas and the hidden meaning there, of course. We've covered it here on the show. So, yeah, that was kind of bizarre and creepy enough. But that's all really the mainstream media really showed you. CNN, in fact, I watched CNN's videos on their YouTube channel. And what CNN showed you specifically was just the panda and then him like kind of, laughing, having some fun. And that's it. They selectively edited out the really creepy parts of this where Joe Biden starts gnawing on children's feet and biting their legs as he invites like different parents with their babies to come up and interact with the president. Let me just gnaw on this foot. Let me just chew on your leg. And why would, by the way, if you're that mom, she's like, yeah, this is fun. Like, this is fun. I'm just going to look at you, or you're enjoying this, right? This creepy old man is chewing your foot. So here's some videos. You want to see this actually in action?
No, I don't, but okay.
Who?
Well, there's Trump's next line. He's eating the babies.
Yeah. And they're going to turn it into a song. He's eating the babies.
She's like,
He's
bye.
eating
Bye
the
then.
babies. They're eating the cats. They're eating the babies. Look, let me just gnaw on that leg. I'm just hungry. I didn't get it. They don't feed me in this White House. Can I just gnaw on your face? And this mom is like, yeah, this is fun. Oh, I'm so thankful. Thanks so much.
That is a super cute baby, though.
Oh, my God. The creepiness. And like a few weeks ago, he was at a campaign stop and he was speaking and he said, and there was like some babies in the front row. There's some little kids there. And he's like, my staff has told me I gotta stay. I can't do this. I can't do this. But you know what? I'm the president of the United States. I'm going to do this. Let's bring these babies up here. So his staff has tried to keep him away from babies.
Oh.
They've specifically tried to keep him away from this. And he just was like, you know what? They told me I shouldn't do that anymore, but just bring these babies up here. I just want to gnaw on them a little bit.
Those people are counting the minutes until they don't have to babysit that guy anymore.
But actually, here's an interesting question, though, right? Because his staff knows that he does this around babies, and they know that he just threw Kamala Harris under the bus by labeling every Trump supporter
I see where you're going
garbage.
with this. Yeah.
Did they just allow him to do this? So now we turn the page and start talking about him gnawing on babies instead of him calling Trump supporters trash.
Possibly.
Is this the way to turn the page? We've got more news to get to here. Congressman Ron Paul joins us next. We're going to check in with Congressman Paul. It's always great to talk with him on the show. We're going to talk about the declining U.S. dollar and the rise of gold. And what does this mean for the $35 trillion that the United States is in debt? I want to ask him about the Trump administration. If they become president of the United States once again with J.D. Vance, will they, in fact, end the Fed? And what can we do with this $35 trillion in debt? So we're going to get to that in just a second. But first, we want to tell you about our friends at Brightcore Nutrition. Something I found, I've been adding it to my daily protein shake every day now, is just one scoop of their fantastic new Revive Multi-Collagen. I'm telling you, if you're getting older and you feel aches and pains, you want to feel younger, look younger, it's more hydrated, and it's amazing to have this radiant skin and hair, stronger bones, joints, anti-aging. You'll feel fantastic. So when I make after I go to the gym in the morning and I make my whey protein shake, you can just throw in one scoop. I use the one that doesn't have any flavor to it, but you can get the ones that have flavor if you want. I just use the one that has no flavor. It revives and helps repair and lubricate joints, reduces pain and inflammation, also helps maintain strong bones and prevents the onset of osteoporosis. It has 5 different types of collagen in it. Inside, these ingredients work synergistically to create long-lasting effects. Many collagen products on the market today simply don't deliver the results, and these guys do. They're really fantastic. Right now, you can get 25% off your order with the code REDACTED. Just go to mybrightcore.com/redacted. mybrightcore.com/redacted. Get 25% off. It's easy to mix, all natural, non-GMO. Put it in your favorite drink, and you can get the raspberry lemonade or unflavored, whatever you like. Try it today, or call their 800 number as well, 888-404-6312. Well, should the United States end the Federal Reserve once and for all? Yes, the Fed. It's what Congressman Dr. Ron Paul has been calling for. He says it's the source of all of our problems in the United States. Well, Vice Presidential candidate J.D. Vance was asked this very question the other day, last week, and he said he's not really a Ron Paul guy, but he is now coming around to this idea of ending the Fed. Watch.
I've kind of come around to the Ron Paul argument. I don't fully agree with it, but the criticism of the Federal Reserve that makes the most sense to me is that it gives massive corporations a lower cost of money than the average American.
Well, then Dr. Paul tweeted this message saying, hey, we'd love to talk about it. Let's actually have a conversation, JD. So did that conversation happen? Will we actually end the Fed? Can America recover from this nearly $36 trillion in debt right now? Let's ask former presidential candidate and Congressman Dr. Ron Paul, and one of my personal heroes, by the way. Dr. Paul, welcome back to the show. Great to see you.
Thank you, Clayton. Good to be with you.
So first of all, I just got to ask, did you speak with J.D. Vance? Has he had a conversation, a phone call, or anything with you about this idea of ending the Fed? Has he taken that up with you, or is he a little too busy right now running for vice president?
Actually not, but it's still the little connection that we had was very valuable, because I guess there were a lot of people out there who was fascinated with the idea. I was surprised that many people looked at the so-called conversation we had. But no, he did not respond directly to me. But we sent an acknowledgement that we appreciated, what's happening, and we want to follow up, because, I think this is where I see openings, when I see people say, well, no, I especially when they say, I wasn't into this, I didn't care that much, but all of a sudden, that's a real encouraging thing. That's not to expect that he will be with us on this issue very quickly, and the political position one holds, depends on exactly how you phrase it. And I think that, it was very, very beneficial, and it exposed this discussion to a lot of people, and I was surprised how many people paid attention, and those who said, yes, Ron should talk to him, so
right.
That's the way it gets started. But 1 week before a major election, maybe they don't want to take any risk, but I thought it was pretty neat, and I was actually surprised that there was that much attention to it, because I've been used to, over the years, to take it as it comes along, and always figuring there will be new people coming in. And there was a time before I was in Congress, or before I even ran for Congress, I would speak out on the money issue and go to college campuses. I used to think 15 or 20 people, that's pretty good, But
Right.
the impressive thing is, later on, many of them worked for me, and it wasn't as foolish as it seemed at the time. You plant seeds, the way I look at it.
Well, in our live stream, we do the show live every day, and I'll see thousands of comments from people saying, end the Fed, end the Fed. So your message is getting out there. For our audience that maybe doesn't understand what the Federal Reserve does, can you talk about what the Federal Reserve is, and how you've repeatedly said that the Fed makes us poor while funding these endless U.S. wars, whether it's in Afghanistan, whether it's in Iraq, whether it's in Ukraine, whether it's in Israel right now. So what exactly is the Fed, and how is it keeping us in this perpetual state of poverty?
Well, technically called a central bank. The bank is owned by the government, or run by the government. And the argument about the central banks and this kind of power you give to a few people has been going on since the inception of the country, because Hamilton and Jefferson argued over this. And Jefferson said, no way, we shouldn't do this. And Hamilton started the first bank. That didn't last. It was finally finished. They tried the second bank, and Jackson got rid of that. But they have all this power. And even those early one, the first bank that was started by Hamilton, was like the Fed, because they were allowed to hold money, held the government money, but they were allowed to print money too. They fiat money immediately, and it didn't work out quite the way they claim. And so the fuss has been going on a long time, and it's a secret body of people that meet. That even when I was in Congress and a ranking member on the banking committee, I was never permitted to go and know I know what exactly they talk about or how they establish monetary policy, but it's a gimmick. It's a gimmick it's a gimmick that is designed to help their special friends.
It's amazing. You're on the banking committee. You're not allowed to know what they're talking about. So they're unelected. They're unelected, and they drive all of the monetary policy for the United States. It's sickening. And of course, we look now at the national debt of the United States. We owe, $36 trillion. Is there a way that we can recover from this at this point? Is there a way that we could, go cold turkey somehow, return to a gold standard? Are we able to come back from this?
Well, this problem has been around for longer even than the history of our country, because all the way back to the Roman times. But it always ends. It ends badly because a lot of people will be cheated and they'll go bankrupt. But to do it gracefully, like getting more members of Congress to vote it in and gradually just shrink the Fed, no way. It's not going to happen. But why? People say, well, why'd you waste all that time, talking about it? Because it'll end. It's going to end itself. And the big question is, what are you going to replace it with? The Marxists like it because they want chaos. They want excessive spending. They want chaos in the streets. They want these wars to agitate us. And then they will come in with their Marxism that they really want to promote. So that is a very, very strong scheme that we have to overcome. And that effort has been going on for a long time. So I would say that to eliminate it gradually is not going to happen. When it ends, though, that's why we have to have a replacement for it. And there's a lot of good history about it, our early history. They tried it with the continental dollar. They tried it with the national banks early on. And they tried it with the Federal Reserve. But right now, I would say in the last, now it's more like 30, 40 years, there's been a revival of an interest in this. I began to get involved in wanting to speak out more was in 1971 when it was determined that, the Bretton Woods Agreement, where we would back the currency at $35 an ounce for foreigners. We weren't even allowed to own the gold. And we limped along. But in 1971, we wouldn't even honor our commitment to foreigners. So it was a declaration of bankruptcy. And since that time, the problems have developed. Right now, when the Fed took over, gold was $20 an ounce. And that means that the ratio, it isn't so much the price of gold that moves, it's the devaluation of the currency. So when the ratio was $20 to an ounce, then $35 an ounce, and then it was in limbo for a long time. And then it finally got legalized in the 70s. And in 1975, we were once again given the freedom to own gold again, which means that they open up like a big ball opening up, and it went from $35 an ounce all the way back then it went to $800, which was a huge jump. But now it's at $2,700, and it's going to go a lot higher because we live in these dangerous times. I think a couple things have to be looked at. One is you have to have a unit of account. A dollar had been in the early years, in spite of the shortcomings and the bad moves that they were doing, there was a certain weight of silver and a weight of gold, and that kept a check on the size and scope of government. But after World War II, we gained the status, and it was not done by just accident, we gained the status of owning and operating the reserve currency of the world, which means the world was starting to accept our dollar, and we took advantage of that. We became very powerful. It finances our military industrial complex and now the medical industrial complex and on and on. So the bubble is huge, but the system is going to collapse. There's signs now that the alternatives, the people who are trying to plan and take over the dollar's position as a reserve currency, they're getting more active, and that will happen, but probably not next week or next month. But this system is going to end. But we need a definition of the unit of account is the biggest thing, and then we have to deal with the Federal Reserve, because that's a taxing agency. What they do is they counterfeit the money, and they serve the special interests. So you have the welfare warfare state, and that encourages the growth of government, and that is what the big issue is. But the thing that bothers me, Clayton, is we have this great debate going on about the people in the election, who has the ugliest supporters. So they go on and do this, and they don't talk about the issues that we're talking about right now, because that's the issue. Why is this government so big, and why do we have less liberty? Can we do anything about it? And the answer is that we know exactly how it's caused. We know exactly what has to be done, but the people have to understand it and be willing to do the things that you need to have sound money and get the government out of our lives and out of our wallet and out of other countries.
Now, you bring up a great point, and I think the candidates mostly haven't touched on this issue. Certainly on the Democratic side, on the communist side, the Marxist side, really, they love the expansion of government, as big as we can possibly make the size of this government. On the Trump side, you certainly have had Elon Musk recently, and of course Donald Trump saying that he was going to appoint him as some sort of like slashing of the budget czar inside the government, slashing perhaps $2 trillion out of the government. But on the other hand, you've had Trump praising the fact that he's expanded the size and scope of the U.S. military, and you talk about the military-industrial complex, so it's made all of those people very, very happy. All of the bomb makers and all of the warmongers in Congress and in Washington who love the expansion of the military. So do you think that definitely not Kamala Harris going to shrink the size of government, but do you think that Trump, maybe having Elon Musk in there, is going to actually shrink the size of government and cut the budget?
Probably not. I think the effort is sincere. I think Musk is sincere, but an individual can't do it. The deficit is too big. The debt is too big, and all the mistakes, the malinvestment are too great. So they will self-destruct, and so you have to eliminate that to get growth to work again. And you can do this either way. You can declare bankruptcy, quit the spending, and get rid of the Fed and all that. But the people wouldn't tolerate it. I mean, can you imagine if you say, Rand, my son Rand, he tried to, cut a penny out of the budget, out of everything in the budget, and then a nickel and a dime, and they won't accept anything. And so, because if there's a budget presentation for $1, $1 on something, they say, well, we want to cut 1 penny out of it. They won't do that, because by that time, the inflationary process says it's not $1 anymore; it's $1.10. So you can't cut anything from $1.10. You have to deal with the monetary policy, because that is the tax, and the tax is. But most people don't realize it, and the Democrats get away with it, and the Republicans who want the wars. That it's deceitful. It's an evil tax. It's put on the average person. The wealthy are not hit, especially in the early parts of the destruction of a currency, and they get away with it because they can get the money first, and they can become very wealthy over it. But eventually, though, the people get higher prices, and the one thing they don't realize is, I've heard it so many times, and this tells you that the educational system of this country is in bad shape. They'll come up and say, well, we have a problem. We know you're sincere and you're trying to help, but I'm going to the grocery store. I don't have enough money to buy my groceries, which is true. And they're suffering the consequence because they were taxed. You say, well, no, we don't really put more taxes on the poor people, the middle class. What we do, take away the value of the currency. So if you and they lie through their teeth about how much the dollar is devalued, and that's the inflation. So if prices going up 10% or more, that means there has been an extraction of purchasing power. So but the people who come to the Congress say, we need more money, and they say, well, we better do that. Everybody has to have education. Everybody has to have medical care, and we have to save the world. We have to take care of the poor Ukrainians and the people in the Middle East and everything else. But that means it's inevitable. There's going to be a major reassessment of all this. And that's why the effort that I spent on is recognizing this. And when I did the presidential races, I was so impressed with so many young people on college campuses that were open to this libertarian message. And even when I would argue, I said, in this system, there wouldn't be an income tax, there wouldn't be any inflation, but the one thing that you have to realize is you can keep what you earn, I thought the thing that they would be hung up on I said, but then you have all this freedom. It's very good and very prosperous, but if you take your freedom and you squander it, or you make a mistake, or there's some problem, you can't go to the government. And they cheered on that as much as the message. The young people wanted to hear the message, but they wanted to at least hear it, and they were willing to accept it, because right now, that would be a wonderful choice to have, that all I have to do, because quite frankly, the answer to who's going to take the people in need, well, did the government take care of all the people who just suffered from the hurricane? No, a lot of private services went in there and did a whole lot of things. So no, it would be taken care of. The country would be wealthier. Employment would be better. You wouldn't have the inflationary tax. So I don't think there's any downside to arguing the case for liberty.
Right. More wealth in the country, more people, neighbors being able to help neighbors, the growth of the economy, and removing this debt burden. You've heard President Trump talk about, he's at least floated the idea of eliminating the federal income tax, which sort of sent a shockwave through the internet. I don't know if he's going to stick to that or not, but when he sent that kind of shockwave, it was, I know you've been advocating for that. Do you think that there's any hope that President Trump would actually do that, eliminate the income tax?
He might try, but that's not going to happen. Because if they didn't have the income tax, it would be so disruptive. But I would do it. But they're not going to do it because too many people would be hurt, especially the special interests, the military-industrial complex. What would you do if you didn't have income tax for the government to pass out all these favors? So it's not going to happen, and it should have never been put in place. And I think the income tax, as well as the conscription for military, is an indication that is a slavery type issue. It's involuntary servitude, because if you accept this income tax even a little bit, even $1, that means the government owns your income, and owns your efforts, and then the government tells you what you can keep, and it is too big, and just the hint of that would drive people crazy, because the real decisions made in Washington come from a band of people who have financial control. Just think of who was it behind getting Biden to drop out of the race. it was the special interests that picked out some powerful Democratic incumbents to go there and tell him he had to leave. So there's a lot, and those were the moneyed interests. There would be bankers and military people and the whole work. So no, I think we should talk about it. I think I like to talk about it, mainly to make it a moral issue and show that it is a tax, and the poor people suffer the most. So if they care about social discourse and the problems that we have now, they have to get rid of this income tax, but you have to get rid of the incentive for big government, and that's where the problem is.
Right. The massive military-industrial complex, the biopharmaceutical complex, all of them that rely on this federal income tax as these favors, the sort of money laundering scheme. But I agree with you. I think it is a form of modern-day slavery. We don't talk about it in those moral terms. I think if more people understood that, and the same people that support the expansion of government that have been lied to for so many years, we could really make some headway. You know, Dr. Paul, I'll get you out of here on this, which is you mentioned kind of multiple times as we've been talking that there's really no coming back from this $36 trillion debt, that it's going to collapse. Is that your position, that we see the rise of BRICS? We see these countries now abandoning the U.S. dollar. We're really seeing the collapse of the Bretton Woods agreements from many, many years ago. And really this sort of repositioning of the international order right now, this new world order where these countries, these BRICS currency countries are saying, we're done being sort of bullied by the IMF, the World Bank, the U.S. dollar as the reserve currency. We're going to go our own way. Do you think it's inevitable that the U.S. dollar collapses and is no longer the world's reserve currency?
To one degree, but I don't know if that would eliminate the concept of a dollar. The British went broke and they lost the reserve status, but there's still a pound, floating around, getting into mischief. So it would do it. But the dollar's position in the world today as the kingpin and the central, the monetary, the money of the world, that will end. But the $35 trillion, we have to deal with it. But it will be liquidated, so we don't have to worry about it. We're in the process of liquidating it right now because a dollar is always worth less and less. But think of it, if the government owns $35 trillion and you reduce the value of the currency by 20%, the debt goes down by 20%, because the dollars you pay it back with. And that's why some people like to borrow money long term and then pay back the mortgages, with cheaper money. So the liquidation is going on right now, and the government benefits from this because real debt actually goes down. But one way or the other, it'll be liquidated. I'm just arguing that it won't be liquidated by taxing people and taking more money from them and start paying it off. That's not going to happen. But that's why what's important is, what are you going to do about it? How are you going to compete? Are you going to have a sound money? And the encouraging thing is, I don't think our country is given any serious consideration to it, but a lot of other countries, these BRICS and other people, are talking about using gold. Not the gold standard that I might design, but at least they're introducing that idea. But, they're going to have to check with Bernanke because, when I ask him, I says, is gold money? And he says it's not money. So, but I said, what are you going to do? Reverse history? 6,000 years of history, it's been money. So, no, the market will take care of it. The market is demanding it already. There is a liquidation going on, but it's a terrible price to pay. And the worst part is the conflict between economic groups, the rich and the poor versus the poor. And right now, the propaganda is controlled by the rich, and therefore they stir up trouble so that the poor just demands more and more of the system that caused all the trouble. Like I said, they don't have enough money. Give me more money so I can pay my bills. And that's putting gasoline on the fire.
I know I said I'd get you out of here a second ago. I just got to ask you about the election here before we go. What do you think we are going to see over the next few months? You know, election day just a few days away, and then all the months before we have an inauguration. What is your sense about being around Washington, D.C.? Of course, your son in the Senate, Rand Paul. What do you see is going to happen over the next few months?
Well, it's hard to say, and I don't go out on a limb on talking about this, but the environment is very rocky because it depends on what the result of the election is. I think the polls that show that Trump is going to win, I believe in them. But what if the rigging is even more than last go around? I mean, there could be a lot of political discourse with that, and I wouldn't be surprised about that. But I'm not predicting that at the end of the month the streets will be all in riots. But they have been pretty rocky here the last couple of years anyway. And we've had this episode of the COVID crisis and that sort of thing. So I wouldn't be surprised if you have this, because if Trump wins, like most people think, you know, the opposition is still in charge of a lot of things, and they are going to do something, whatever they can, to make the incoming president as miserable as they possibly can. And there may be some, I wouldn't be surprised about, you know, some distractions, you know, some real crises, more epidemics, more wars. Maybe the war that is expanding, always trying to expand, you know, in Ukraine. Now the Koreans are in Russia. What are we going to do about it? So there's all this room for just expanding the crisis, and the people would say, well, this isn't the time to cut the spending. This is the time for us to tighten our belt and get ready for the big war. And that's what, obviously, we're trying to prevent.
Such a smart point. Yes, those people, even if Trump wins, are still in charge. And they made life miserable for him after he won the last time. And the outgoing Obama administration basically sabotaged. I mean, even talking about offices and computers and everything in the executive branch, it was an absolute disaster. It's probably going to be much worse this time. Dr. Paul, great to see you as always. And I encourage people to check out all of your work. And by the way, read your book. Everyone should read your book on ending the Fed. Just such an important discussion to be having right now as we barrel towards the disaster of the U.S. dollar decline right now. Dr. Paul, great to see you as always. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Nice to be with you.
Well, absolutely. It was an honor to have Ron Paul on the show. I love all the comments, people saying he looks really good. He absolutely does. We need him healthy and in leadership positions. The Pauls are, I mean, I just saw that Rand Paul's wife posted on X that in 2008, that Rand Paul dressed as $10 trillion deficit because he thought it was so scary for Halloween. In 2008, 10 trillion was too scary. Look where we are now. We have no responsible fiscal leadership. So let us know what you think of that. We have more news to get to. We're going to talk about why liberals are not joyful. In fact, they're the most depressed population out there. Data shows that is the case. We're going to discuss it. Why do you think that is? Why do you think that happens? Plus, we're going to take your super chats. I want to let you know that Clayton had to run off to do a school pickup because that conflicts with the show today. That happens because of the holiday. So you got me for a little bit longer. He probably will be back. So first, though, we want to remind you that Redacted is brought to you by Aura. Aura is a place to make sure that you are safe from online data breaches and other hacks. Now, you've heard about it all of the time. Dell suffered a data breach that exposed 3.9 million customer records. United Health confirmed 100 million of their users had their data stolen. Ticketmaster malware, massive data breach, 560 million customer records. Of course, we hear about this all the time, and it's really hard to know how you can keep yourself safe online because these hackers are smart as anybody, right? And in fact, they're more ambitious. But I feel secure because I am using Aura, which is today's sponsor. They monitor your personal data, including your social security number, across billions of data points, like the dark web even, and public court records to alert you about potential identity theft. They provide up to $5 million in identity theft insurance in case the worst thing happens. And even if you think, well, I can do this myself, I can remove myself from certain lists, I can, keep myself on search records and things like that, you never know. Because in fact, a friend of mine had something just show up at her house recently, and she's diligent about that kind of stuff. You just never know. So it's good to make sure that you have professionals that are trying to work as fast as the dark web, as fast as the hackers. And that's where Aura comes in. So you can start your 14-day free trial at aura.com/redacted. Let them do the hard work of keeping you safe online. That's their business. It's not yours, most likely. So start your 14-day free trial. Go to aura.com/redacted. Well, the Harris Walz campaign is running on the platform of joy, they say. They're so joyous, they're happy, they are not negative. Only, did you know that liberals are raising the most depressed kids ever? And in fact, those rates are skyrocketing. I think there's a reason for this. I think it's baked into their platform. I myself have experienced it. I am in remission from liberal depression, and I want to talk about it. A recent study showed that high school seniors whose parents are liberal, and they are liberal and also college educated, have the highest rates of depression and rising. And in fact, it's worse for girls. I want to show you this data in a minute. But first, let's take a look at this tagline of joy, this campaign of joy. When Harris is asked why she's so different, she just keeps saying that she's so joyous, and she then laughs maniacally. This joy line keeps being repeated by Tim Walz and every campaign surrogate you see for the Democrats. Here she was recently preaching that joy was coming in an accent you don't normally hear from Californians or Bay Area natives like myself or Indian immigrants. But take a look.
Weeping may endure for a night, but joy cometh in the morning. The path may seem hard, the work may seem heavy, but joy cometh in the morning, and church morning is on its way.
Okay. So the problem here is that liberals are not joyful. According to the data, they're incredibly anxious and depressed. And in fact, I know this because, like I said, I am in remission from Trump derangement syndrome. I was baited by that from 2015 all the way through the end of Trump's presidency. I cured myself of it. What's funny about Trump derangement syndrome is something that Nicole Shanahan came up with. She was the running mate of RFK Jr. And when she posted this highly edited video about Trump derangement syndrome and how liberals, they don't have policies specifically that they can run on other than abortion and true hatred of Trump. But when you get rid of it, when you cure yourself of it, she says, one of the symptoms of curing yourself is that you get rid of hate. You find yourself relieved of hate. And that really resonated with me because I no longer hate Trump in the same way. I no longer support Democrats. That existential change in myself relieved me of a lot of anger and hate. But sure, there are plenty of hateful Republican supporters, but the internet is more full, I would say, like with people like this who are Democrats who just want to hate on everyone they see as a Trump supporter. Watch.
Hi. I want to know how you can vote.
We can't answer the door right now, but if you'd like to leave a message, you can do it now.
Shameful. Are you the one that walks by here and always screaming at people? No, I haven't walked by recently. Okay, because a lot of people walk by and scream. Yeah, I'm not surprised. You are voting for the devil. Don't you know that? No. Why are you voting for him? Because I believe he is the moral candidate. Oh, my God. F*** you for that one. That's moral? Exactly right. That's how your side acts. Oh, my God. That's he's the most immoral person around. In your opinion, that's okay. Oh, you. Yeah, I'm sorry. Have a nice day. Have a nice day. God bless you.
This is an unprovoked attack. Someone just walks up to someone's house and says, I can't look at your lawn sign without getting incredibly unhappy. And I feel for her because she's genuinely upset about these differences of opinion. And she's been baited to do that by saying that anyone who supports the other side is a Nazi and a fascist. And how can you not feel that way when you're spoken to? Or this video that went viral last weekend, there's a white woman who's about to yell that she doesn't care at all about dead babies in Gaza. The problem is who she's yelling at is a child in a stroller. Now, thank goodness for this black woman who steps in and says, no, that's a baby. We don't do this. This sort of harkens to Malcolm X's warning that the most dangerous thing in the Western Hemisphere is the white liberal. Now, I think that most liberals are well-intentioned but highly misinformed and baited by their own emotion. The problem is, though, that liberals then are putting this on their children. It scares me to think that I could have done this to mine. A study showed in 2022 that liberal teens have the highest rates of depression. Researchers looked at 86,000 high school seniors, and they found that the kids who identified as liberals had much higher rates of depression, and those rates were rising faster. Here's the study if you want to look for it yourself. Now, one of the things that Abigail Schreier writes about in her recent book, Bad Therapy, is that a lot of this is because liberal society puts abstract problems on kids that they can't control, like climate change and racial injustice and colonialism. So they walk around the world seeing just injustices everywhere, and they're miserable because of it. And then they think everyone who doesn't understand this is a bad person. Now, look how this breaks down by gender. You can see the dark blue line that is the highest and rising at the fastest slope is female liberals, just behind male liberals. But that's not to say, it should be noted that all groups, conservative and liberals, have increasing rates of depression. That is pretty much every researcher agrees that it has to do with the iPhone making them miserable. We know this. But what is the algorithm on their iPhone serving them, liberals specifically, that makes it worse? Now, look how when we account for parents, it breaks down. Liberal kids still do poorly when their parents don't have a college education. But when the parents do have a college education, meaning you're more likely to have liberal parents, look how much worse it is for girls. So teenage girls who identify as liberal and have liberal parents have higher rates of depression. And I think that's a pretty easy explanation because of the types of things that are literally baked into the party platform. Now, this scares me because I'm from San Francisco. I easily could have gone down this path and made my kids miserable too with all of these things that I did once very much care about. And in fact, recently, we went on vacation and I had this epiphany because we went somewhere that we hadn't been for 5 years. Now, 5 years ago, I had been a card carrying liberal supporter. But when we went back just a couple weeks ago, I realized I'm different now. I'm happier now. When I was there the last time, I was really miserable. Every time I saw a plastic water bottle, I was judgy about it. I thought everyone who went to the Caribbean was a colonialist if they were not black. I felt guilty for going there. I thought that we were ruining the reefs by wearing sunscreen. I refused to use plastic bags in my packing. I saw racism and sexism everywhere. And this time I noticed I don't hate everybody like that. I don't worry like that. It's not that I don't care about those issues, but I'm far more informed about those issues. And I realized that just the economy works in a different way than I had really thought about at the time. I thought everything was a patriarchy. And so when you realize that, you come through it and you realize no wonder. And I could have been constantly ad nauseum putting that on my kids and contributing to their likelihood of depression. With the iPhone, obviously. Now, when you've been through that, you feel why liberals, you understand why they're so damn depressed all the time. Here's Rosie O'Donnell just this week posting how she's so depressed at the election that she needs to be medicated.
Okay, so how's everybody's nerves about this election? You know, let's say on a scale of 10 being can't think of anything else and may need some additional medication, I'm like at a 7. I'm at a 7. So that's all right. I can handle a 7. I'm trying not to watch so much of the news now. I'm trying to recite that amazing prayer you do in Al-Anon and AA about, you know, the wisdom to know the difference between the things you can and cannot change. And, you know, if you voted, if you donated, if you could, whatever you did, you participated, and now, you know, we got a week left to worry, and then it's in someone else's hands, you know. And I just think with all those people showing up for Kamala, I don't think it's as close as they're saying it is. I really don't. And I think that the dumpster, the hate rally manager, that guy, the orange dumpster fire, him, he's trying to set it up so that when she wins, he can say it was all voter fraud. But if we overpower them there at the ballot box, they're not going to be able to cheat and lie. Too many of us, you know. That's what I think, and that's what I believe. And that's what we have to hold on to for the next 7 days as we get images and content and, you know, fake news and trolls and shit from Russia infiltrating our inboxes, you know.
I mean, I don't want to laugh at someone else's depression, but that's joy. That's what liberals have to go on. I mean, I need to be sedated to watch that kind of stuff. Also, there's no proof that Russia is interfering in our election. The FBI debunked that last time. Maybe we shouldn't drag that one out. And again, I get feeling this way when you are told constantly that if your candidate loses, all your rights will be destroyed, your planet will fall apart, everything you love will go away. You're going to have to watch people carted off in boxes and in jail and that, you know, 1984 type thing. Somebody in the chat says, Natalie, you're still pretty intense. Agreed. We are agreed. I'm not saying that I am better now. Nobody's saying that. Okay. I'm just saying I'm less depressed about causes that I cannot change. Okay. So, and let's be honest, both sides are trying to scare the other one away from voting against their opponent. Everybody's using fear tactics right now. But it seems that one side can cope and one side cannot. So no one's feeling joy right now. Joy is a misnomer for everybody. We're all on edge. But sadly, making yourself strong enough to deal with it tends to be a conservative and libertarian value and not a liberal one. The liberals are ready to just fall apart and rely on big pharma. So that shouldn't be partisan. We have to all keep ourselves together, conservative or liberal. We got to make ourselves strong enough to deal with it because we're gonna have to deal with it together. So shall we do that instead of fall apart? It's either joy or they're a puddle, right? That's how it is right now for liberals. So let me know what you think of that. Before we move on, I really appreciate your comments. David, are you still there? You can talk to. How are you feeling?
I am.
Are you
still
joyful?
Here. Yes, I am.
Joyful?
I am joyful, yes, but not for the reasons they are.
Okay. What do you think the reasons they are?
Well, and I always say, like, I feel like the reason I'm joyful is I see, you know, places like X and stuff where truth is getting through, and I feel like we're actually winning the information war. Like, we didn't have X last time during an election to show all the things that are going on. So there's a precedent being set saying, no, this is actually happening. And they're not able to squall it as much as they did last time because Twitter was taking anything down. So I just feel like that makes me happy to know that we are winning the informational war. Now, whether that'll stick or not, I don't know, but.
Sure. And I haven't shared with you which party I support because I'm an independent, but I am very committed to wanting the Democrats to lose because I am super afraid of them and their platform. And so when I get dark thinking that they might win and that would lead to a bigger war that could draw my family into it and make other people unsafe and yada, 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 then I remember that the people who are fighting against them will keep going no matter what, right? And so the people that I believe in, like Tulsi Gabbard and Vivek Ramaswamy, they will still be there. They're gonna still keep going, and so will we. So let us know how you're coping Nobody has to be joyful. It's just an unreasonable expectation as well, don't you think? Because we're all kind of upset at this point, I would say. So let me know. Maybe you can leave me a super chat, or I do see your chats. Rosie Misery, it says. I see your chats, so we can talk about whatever you'd like to, because we're going to move into super chats. David, do you want to read the Rumble ones first?
Yep. So we got one from G Fontes 119. Dave's World, party time. Excellent.
Thank you for singing that.
Yeah, no worries. Correct methods. We need a Bitcoin-backed dollar.
Yes. And in fact, interestingly enough, on Halloween, what year was it? 2008, is when the concept of Bitcoin was released in a white paper on October 30th. I think it was 2008. And in fact, today, Donald Trump wished Bitcoin a happy birthday. Is that a sign of where the economy could be going? I'm reading some tea leaves, and I like that. Let me know what you think.
And then we got Tazuma 1 for $5. Grover's Bone Fund. So get Grover a bone from.
Thank you. That's nice.
All right. So now we're going to go into the super chats, and I'll just put those up on screen for you.
Okay. Thank you. From Choke. From Kingbro. Hello, garbage people. From Joe Biden, 2024. All right. We're the garbage pail kids. Did you guys ever have that? I don't know why no one's picked up on that as a meme. Yeah, garbage pail kids, right? Those are big for my generation. Why hasn't anybody used that as a meme yet? Like as a point of pride. It's our generation's thing. Maybe somebody could. Okay, from I'm Trash Bruh. This is a friendly reminder, folks. Tuesday is trash day, not recycle day. Means you take it out, you don't recycle. And in fact, in my neighborhood, it is. Recycling day was this week, so we don't have recycling next week. So maybe that's an omen. I don't know. Steak Hex, thank me later. $5. Thank you so much. Richard Hart versus the SEC in federal court. Can you go back? I missed it.
Whoops.
Are you able?
Shoot.
Or just read it. Can you read it?
I gotta go into YouTube. Sorry, that was a.
Okay.
I'll just go to the next one, and I'll come back to that one while you're talking.
Okay,
about
thank you. We'll come back. Injunctions. SB filed with SCOTUS re Dominion votes. Injunctions. I don't know what SB is. Thank you. $2 from 7 Dennis 123 regarding injunctions filed with SCOTUS. Oh, has there been an injunction about the Dominion votes yet, or has there not? Maybe that's a clue. Thank you. I will look into that as we head into the election. $1.99 from Lynetta. Thank you so much. Really appreciate the contribution. €5 from Tommy. Greetings from Slovakia. Greetings right back to you. Thank you so much. $10 from M. There's a snake in my boot. All right. That's from Toy Story. Gotcha. $2 Canadian from Marcus Smith. There is cheating going on in Wisconsin. Others. Yes. I mean, there's cheating everywhere. It's just a matter of how much we catch it and how much we want to fix it. £2 from Gerbs92. I want to be a part of the rant. Here you are. Thank you. If you have more to rant about, let me know. I'd like to hear that. From M, how in the hell does everyone not love Ron Paul? I think we do. Did anybody in the chat say anything bad about Ron Paul? We'll kick you right out for that. That's not a opinion you can have. Redacted. I don't think anybody. Did you guys see anything about that? He's a national treasure.
No, yeah, it was mostly positive. I mean, the reason I'm sitting here right now is because of Ron Paul. Like I asked him. I was like, should I get into politics? He's like, no, get into the media, get into journalism because you have more of a voice than you have as a politician.
Yeah,
and I took his advice.
Here we are. Okay, $4.99 from Rachel Day. When I was a liberal, I used to get worked up easily and be ready to argue. You and me both, girl. After becoming more conservative, I realized it's not worth the time to argue. Yes, samesies, girl. That's a really tough revelation to have. So thank you for being with me on that self-realization journey. Clayton's back. We're reading super chats. We can move right along. $1.99 from I'm Trash Bruh. she was Keith Olbermann all along. I think he's talking about Rosie O'Donnell from that super depressing video. And in fact, I have to apologize for... I was like, I just brought your energy way down, so let's go way back up. Clayton, we're about to do the Macarena. $4.99 from Choke Dealer. Why doesn't Trump sue the media for their lies and defaming him? Well, we've spoken about that recently. The bar of proof, the burden of proof for defamation is incredibly high for a public figure. Although, I don't know, it wouldn't be that high to prove that the media both wanted to hurt him and knew that they were wrong. Those are two things you have to prove. We see that every day. So that's, I mean, I think that also, though, he has to have the appetite for more litigation, and his dance card's pretty full when it comes to litigation. Okay. Any more? Is that what we got?
New Kamala Harris campaign, Misery Loves Company.
Yeah, that's more accurate.
Instead of joy.
Yeah. Absolutely that. Yep. And then...
Why isn't Fox News talking about the pro-Palestinian protesters at the Ellipse that were bashing Kamala? Actually, they did. I caught a brief moment of it today. Harris Faulkner covered that today briefly. So yeah, actually, there was like 5 different protests in a row at 5 different Kamala Harris campaign stops. So her campaigns keep getting interrupted by protesters, and not just pro-Palestinian protesters, all sorts of protesters.
Yes, indeed. All right. And from Curly Bill. Oh, somebody said something about Curly Bill the other day. It's from a Western. I can't remember. Somebody.
Well, from Tombstone, but he's an actual person.
Thank you. Yes. Somebody.
Cowboy.
Okay, thank you for that, because Clayton expressed that he didn't.
And I got a message from Curly Bill on Twitter. Actually, he's actually his wife. His last name is Brosey, I think is what the last name was, Curly Bill Brosey, and he's actually part of that family.
Oh, super cool. All right. Cool. So he says Trump will win in a landslide. Trump not allowed to take office, though. I see fake riots, martial law, BlackRock, Vanguard, controlled government henchmen from the CIA feeding riots. Stock up just in case.
Yeah, we should all be prepared for it. I mean, I'm reading a great book right now called Prepared. Like we should all be prepared. And, again, catastrophes. You cannot rise to the level of like, oh, my expectation is that I'll be prepared when there's a catastrophe. No, that's not how it works. You only rise to the level of your preparedness. That's it. You don't like, oh, you know what? When crap hits the fan, I will suddenly arm myself. When crap hits the fan, I will suddenly know how to feed my family in an emergency when there's no power in the house. No. You will only rise to that level of preparedness that you've already prepared for and trained for. You're not going to suddenly become like some master of the outdoors if you don't understand how to get there ahead of time. So I agree with you on that.
All right.
And then really quick, the one that we skipped, Natalie, the one we skipped,
go ahead.
Stake Hex, Thank Me Later. Richard Hart versus the SEC in federal court in a fight of freedom of speech. This is a must-win for liberty. Let's go Hex, Pulse Chain, and Freedom.
Oh, okay. We'll follow that case. Thank you so much. Thanks for letting us know about that. And sorry we skipped you. And then Gerbs, who really is in control of the USA and other government. Your guess is as good as mine. Yeah, that's what we're trying to uncover all the time. That's why our show is called Redacted, so we can find out what they're hiding from us. Marvin Vargas, you notice YouTube blocking comments. Ron Paul was great. Yes, we do. And a lot of times they go too fast, or YouTube will hold it because they decide they think something is maybe hateful or something like that. A lot of times we'll let them through because we don't block comments, but thank you for not blaming it on us. But yes, sometimes they do. So thank you. But we see this one. We appreciate it very much. And King Bro, 10, I think that's, is that Swiss dollars or I'm not exactly sure that. And anyhow, my grandma E. Norm Stitz celebrates her 89th birthday. Can you greet her? Yes. Happy birthday, Grandma E. Norma Stitz. 89. Love it. Is that? Oh
my gosh.
Come on, really? You fell for that? Wow. I had a grandma once.
Hug and kiss.
I had a grandma once. Grandma Norma Tits.
Okay. You got me there.
Fell for it. That's why I
Okay.
had to come back. All right, you want to go pick up the other child?
I do have to do that.
All right, I think your time
Clayton's
is done.
good. Yeah. On that, happy Halloween, you guys. I'm off to do the
Go
other
pick up our
Clayton,
child,
you say
Oliver.
goodbye.
Oliver pants down.
Okay. I'm going to pick up Ethan.
Go pick up Oliver. Oliver pants off. My God, she fell for it. Enormous tits.
Hey, I fell for it too. I didn't catch it when I was putting it on the screen.
Man, the adult had to come back and wrangle this craziness. All right, what else do we have here? I'm trash, bruh. My family were all Democrats too. I was trash before it was cool. I was called every name in the book. Wow.
I love that name.
I'm trash, bruh.
That's all of them.
That's all of them. All right, it's Halloween. It's Halloween. It's time to get the kids out and get them trick-or-treating and having fun and just enjoying everything America has to offer and having fun. That's what I love about America. America has such a great sense of humor when it comes to like Halloween, by the way. Other countries don't even come close to what the U.S. does for Halloween, and it's always a blast. They have a great sense of humor. I was dropping my daughter off today at school, and there was like a little boy walking. He had a giant inflatable dinosaur that he was sitting on as he walked into school. My son is here. My son Miles is here. What are you going as tonight, by the way?
I don't know.
You don't know?
I have like 3 costumes.
I know you've been kind of rotating. My friend asked me, he's like, "What is Miles going as tonight for Halloween?" I'm like, actually, I don't know. You've got an arsenal of costumes. Combine them.
Well, it's kind of difficult because one of my costumes is Stay Puffed from Ghostbusters.
That's right. You're going as the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man.
But
That's
then
great.
another one is Spider-Man, so I don't think that would combine very well.
You could do Stay Man. Stay Spider-Man Puff.
Spider Puff.
Spider Puff. No, you're going to go with Stay Puft. That's fantastic.
Well, I'm going with that with you.
All right, Stay Puft Marshmallow Man.
Proud garbage.
I'm going as one of the hitchhiking ghosts in the Doom Buggy. So anyway, thank you guys. Happy Halloween, everyone. And El Guapo in our chat says, don't
do drugs, Miles.
Don't do drugs, Miles. Stay away from those drugs, all right? Don't end up like one of those liberal kids.
We also got a $2 super chat. Somebody wishing Norma a happy birthday.
Oh yeah, Norma's tits. Happy birthday, Norma. Happy birthday, Norma. That's a birthday I could get behind. It's a birthday celebration I could get.
They
behind.
had their Halloween last night in Australia.
Yeah. Well, we got to go, Miles.
Oh, okay.
If you want to keep doing the show, you can.
Yeah. Don't read that chat, Miles.
Don't read that chat.
You said that yesterday too.
And don't do drugs. All right. And happy birthday! Happy birthday to Enormous Tits. And we'll be back here. We'll be back here on Monday. Happy Halloween, everyone. Much love to everyone. Have a great Halloween. And thanks for subscribing. Thanks for being a part of the Redacted community. Bye, everyone.